It is episode 5 of the Preferred Community, the Preferred Experience, coming to you from the Preferred Community in the Fountain City, the city that never sleeps, the city that's exciting to live in, the jewel of the river region, Prattville, Alabama. I'm Will Barrett with the Millzer, and we have a special guest on the podcast today, don't we?
Oh, yes, we do. Oh, by the way, the city that you say never sleeps, try to get something to eat after 9 o'clock in this town.
Yeah, you have to... Yeah,
you're limited to like 4 places.
The city that didn't sleep before COVID.
Yeah, there we go.
And now
I was half asleep during before
now
COVID.
Sleeps plenty after 9. Okay. We are joined today by Kim Crockett, the recently elected Autauga Board of Education District 2 representative. Congratulations, Kim.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited.
This has been a long time coming. We have an exciting thing happening in Autauga County, specifically in our Board of Education. We're having mass turnover, as it would appear. Possibly 4 seats, maybe 5 being completely like a complete renovation of the Board of Education, and it starts with you, District 2.
Yes, District 2. They showed up and showed out the other day, so I'm very honored to have been chosen to represent. Ta-da.
Represent the entire county, the District 2, and the county at large.
Absolutely.
Now, you ran against the incumbent Jim Anderson, who had been seated there for several terms,
yes,
and against Wayne Lambert, who both ran strong campaigns. You ended up getting 45% of the vote in the primary.
Yes. And
that triggered a runoff.
It did.
Let's talk a little bit about this campaigning thing. Is this your first campaign?
Yes.
For anything?
Absolutely.
Even like SGA class president?
Yes, absolutely. It's my first time to put myself out there, but it just goes to show that I'm very passionate about this, and I was super invested in this. I wanted this. I wanted to win, and I put my whole heart into it, and people saw that. And
you said from the start that, just reading a little bit about you before came on today, that this was 4 years in the making for you.
Yes.
It's not something you came about just on a whim. I think I'll run for school board.
Right.
You have thousands and thousands of hours in the school system.
Yes. Volunteering,
PTA president. Talk a little bit about your path to deciding to run and then winning the election.
Okay. So about 4 years ago, I was approached to be the APT president, the Association of Parents and Teachers, at Prattville Elementary School. And, nobody wants to be the APT president. That's a difficult, it's a lot of pressure. It's a difficult job. You're responsible for a lot of things, a lot of behind the scenes things that people don't really know. And so I reluctantly said yes, I would do it. And so I went in and I poured my whole heart into that, 110%. I set out and I said, I'm going to do the best job I can do. And throughout that year, I got really close with the principal. Mm-hmm. And she approached me one day and she said, Kim, I think that you should really look at running for the Board of Education. And I laughed at her and I said, you are crazy. I'm barely keeping my head above water being APT president. I can't do that. And she said, you absolutely can. She said, I see your heart and I see all the things that you're doing for these kids. And I think that you would be a phenomenal asset to Autauga County. And so I kind of took a few days and mulled it over and I thought, well, I guess I should start going to board meetings if I'm going to look into doing this. And I started going to board meetings. And then throughout the next couple years, I got really close to teachers and admin and started going to board meetings. And it all just kind of snowballed from there. And it was like, you know what? I really could do this. I can do this. And I think that our district needs a representative who is relevant, somebody who has been in those schools, been in the District 2 schools and knows the teachers of those schools that you represent. And so I started seeing the disconnect between the teachers and the board and the admin and the board and the schools and the board. And it was like the teachers are saying, hey, why did they say that? Because that's not what we told them, and we do surveys and, we have all these meetings and, where's it different? And I was like, you know what? I don't know, but I would like to find out. So like I said, just all kind of snowballed from there. And I thought when the time came, I've been talking for 4 years, telling everybody I met, I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do that. And then it came down time to qualify. Yeah. And I said, all right, I got to either put up or shut up, So I had to write my qualifying check and put my name in the runnings. So it was very scary.
Well, and people think that if you've never run a campaign, if you've never run for an office, the people that haven't, including myself until recently, would think that you just go and sign up and then you get a couple $100, put some signs out, and that's all you do.
Oh yeah.
That's not it.
That is not it. That is not it. Absolutely not. Because you think, okay, well, I know these people, but you don't. You don't know the people that you represent. So you've got to get out and you've got to meet the people who are going to vote for you.
Thousands of people.
Thousands and thousands of people. It was a lot of doors that I knocked on, and that was something that people don't tell you, that is very important to a lot of people, that you come and meet them face to face. And it was almost next to impossible to meet 5,000 people.
Right.
I did my best. I tried very, very hard to meet as many people as I could. We went to all the Prattville functions and we set up booths at places and, we put in the footwork. We walked a lot and met lots of wonderful, wonderful people who had lots of concerns.
Absolutely, and valid concerns too.
Yes.
When you look around the school system right now, Watauga County Schools is a large school system.
Yes.
And currently, I think if I'm considering the time that I've been in Prattville since 2007, I think you came in a couple years before that.
Yes.
13 years in Prattville.
We've been here for 13 years. Yes.
13 years with your husband and your wonderful children.
Yes. Yep.
Average husband, wonderful children. I'm kidding. Dr. Crockett is amazing.
He is. He owns a small business here. So we came here. He bought a practice and from Dr. Barrett McNamara and came here, and he knew buying a small business, we were going to be here. And so we've set up shop, and, I've tried to put my name in the community. And, we do have 3 kids. My oldest will be a senior this year.
Goodness gracious.
At Prattville High. My middle child will be in 8th grade. And my sweet little baby girl, she's going to be in 4th grade at Prattville Elementary School. So we started here when my oldest was in kindergarten. And so we've been through all the schools. And
you've seen firsthand.
We have. I have always been involved with all of my children. I've been the room mom. I've been the one who goes in and reads with the kids and does the workbook pages for the teachers. So with all 3 of my kids, I've done that. And so I was just heavily involved with my middle child and the school more. But I've seen firsthand the things that we need to change.
And I think a lot of that starts with morale. You think back to when in 2007, it seems like there were more teachers and coaches and administrators working in Watauga County schools that were not from Watauga County. Now, in 2022, it seems like the majority of our teachers, administrators, coaches are born and raised here, and even they suffer from extremely low morale.
Right.
And why do you think is causing that?
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know. I think it is the lack of leadership sometimes. I don't know. They don't feel heard. The teachers around here don't feel listened to by the majority of people. The people who are supposed to have their back, they don't feel heard a lot of times. That's my consensus. So they just need somebody who's going to understand them and who's going to stand up for them and say, that's not what they're telling me they want, when making those big decisions. So I love making people happy. Look, if I can bring donuts and that makes you smile, I'm going to do that. We started a thing at the elementary school called the Woot Woot Wagon, and you would not believe how that just changed the entire morale in that school, knowing that once a month that Woot Woot Wagon was going to come down the hall and those teachers are going to get a prize. Mm-hmm. And it could be a new Flair pen and a bag of Doritos, but
it's the principle of it.
It is. It's the principle of it, that we actually thought about them, and we thought, hey, you need to be rewarded, and it's all about making those people feel like $1 million. I mean, it's all about how you make people feel. And
I've always been told that, and I find this to be true, that people remember a fraction of what you say.
Yes.
But they'll remember 100% the way you make them feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think if you talk to a lot of the teachers that I've come in contact with, I think they will tell you the same thing. They will say, Kim makes me feel important. Mm-hmm. And,
it's huge.
It is. It's huge. We had the city had the education committee meeting a few months back, and I reached out to all my teacher friends and I said, please tell me what you guys want. And the response was, are you serious? Like, you really want to know what I have to say?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really?
I do. I want to know how you think this money that's going to education and how it should be spent, because y'all are it. Y'all are in the classroom and y'all know what you need. And it was just like, thank you for asking me. And it was paragraphs. I polled over 30 teachers of all their information.
And they're ready, right?
Oh, they're ready. They're like, finally, somebody who's going to listen. It may not happen, but I'm going to listen, and I'm going to tell anybody who's going to listen to me, mm-hmm. What we need. So.
And an advantage you have is with running unopposed, so you don't have to. You got this incredible amount of time that you can basically talk to people, get all the information that you need.
Yes.
And before you even step in the door.
Right.
And so, because you're going to be in there, what, the term starts in January? Do they start it in January?
Yes.
So you'll start, so you got from now to January knowing that you're on the board, so you can go on and just get a game plan together before you even step in the door. And
that's right. No Democratic nominee.
Not that I know of. No.
None. She's in.
Yeah. Yep. No, I'm in like Flynn.
We talking about the morale of the school system, morale of teachers, morale of even administrators at some level. And I see this, I've got a kid that's in a rising 8th grader at the junior high, mm-hmm. and a little girl that's hitting 2nd grade this year, coming up at Prattville Primary.
Yep.
They're growing up way too fast.
Yes, they do.
But their teachers every year send a list of stuff that they need for their classroom.
Yes.
That we have to provide. And a lot of that stuff does not get provided. And these teachers come out of their own pocket to decorate the classroom, to make sure that kids have snacks that can't bring snacks to school, that can't afford snacks. I remember going in one particular teacher's room when you could do that before COVID,
Yes.
Remember when you could go into school and actually meet your teachers?
Yes.
Wasn't that great?
Yes.
But she would pull a drawer out and there would be just tons of Nutri-Grain bars or granola bars,
yes.
and chip bags that kids that couldn't afford to bring a snack and come up and get. And she would fund all that.
Yes.
These teachers don't make a lot of money, but they are spending a lot of their own money on their own students. This is a problem.
Yes.
This is a problem. We're losing teachers because of that. We're losing teachers because of their base salary. We're losing teachers because of resources available to them. We're losing teachers because of opportunities for extra income, stipends that they can get in other systems. And they're going to other systems, and these systems are not far away.
Right.
They're 8 miles away. It's
know.
Elmore County. It's Montgomery County. It's Auburn City Schools. It's Calera. It's Alabaster. We're getting lapped.
Yes. Yes, we are. And I've always said our teachers in Autauga County do a phenomenal job with what they're given.
Yes.
So the circumstances that they have to deal with, we have the best of the best. We do. And we're losing them.
They absolutely, you can tell by their I mean, even though morale can be demoralizing at times, these teachers love what they do. They love these kids, and they pour their hearts into them as much as they possibly can.
Yes.
Down to a nub. But there comes a limit where they need resources.
Yes.
They need resources, and they need to know that they're appreciated in the way of income.
Yes.
And we're not doing that. But there's a chance to change all that pretty soon.
There is.
There is a vote coming to increase the millage in this county 15 points for education.
Be a little more specific about it, not the county.
Not the county. Correct, not the county. The 2 central school districts.
Yes.
And that was never the original intent of that bill. But there were some people that would not allow it to happen in the extreme parts of the county, in West Autauga County and in North Autauga County, which is a shame. I feel like it was deceptive in their approach. But quick thinking and proper work by our Senator Chambliss, allowed the vote to continue by setting up specialized tax districts. So the Central School District and the Pratt School District, which is essentially all the schools in the city limits, they're all county schools.
Yes.
Hear me. We don't have a city school system,
Nope.
people. Facebook, keyboard warriors. We do not have a city school system. We have a county school system. And the majority of the county schools are in the city limits of Prattville.
Yes.
And right outside, including Prattville High School.
Yes.
The 2 central school districts, they're going to get a chance to vote on changing the course of their school systems.
Yes.
And this is massive.
It is. And I think the majority of the people who do not have kids in the system, or who are not as heavily involved as some other people, they don't realize that we are the least funded school system in the state of Alabama. We are 136 out of 136. Mm-hmm. And we need help.
Add to that, what is it now? I think at one time the third highest median income.
Yes.
Third highest in the state.
I think it's down to like 5. Oh wow.
Wow.
Oh, we're down.
We're in the top 5.
We're only in the top 5 of the
5
state.
of 67 counties.
Yes.
67 counties.
So, but it goes one step further than that. Alabama schools statewide are one of the lowest funded schools in the nation.
Yes.
We're the lowest funded school system in the state. Therefore,
Ergo.
we're one of the lowest funded school systems in this country.
Yes.
And people want to fight about a tax increase?
Yes.
Ridiculous.
Yes. Of course, you have to vote the way that you see fit. Me and my family are very supportive of the tax because my kids are directly affected by this. We need help. We're drowning, and the only way that things are going to get better is if we have money coming in, and if anybody out there has any other miraculous ways, if you got a money tree in your backyard, we would come and pick it, So there, and I understand that there are several ways to get funding. There are grants to write, and there are other things that you can do, but this is huge.
But those things are not sustainable.
Not long term.
And also, when you have, as I like to call it, kicked the can down the road for so long,
Yeah.
There is no quick fix now. It is in such a bad situation that you're going to have to pay extra just to get back on an even plane with everybody else.
Or close to even.
Just
Right.
close to even.
Right.
I mean, we're talking, if the tax goes through and everything, it's still equal to the bottom of the state in funding.
Yes.
I mean, we're not even like going. It's like you're not getting a tax increase and jumping up in the middle of the pack. You're still at the dead last.
Yes.
And here was the lie. We pay 10 mills of property tax toward our state to receive state funding. That is the minimum you have to pay. And before that, it was 7. Mm-hmm. We wouldn't even raise our millage to 10. We kept it at 7. So the state had to levy 3 additional mills on us to get the funding required to get state funding. We wouldn't even raise it at that point. Everyone else sees fit that this is something that's necessary. We, for some reason, we stayed behind. Now we're trying to go from 10 mills to 25. That's 15 extra millage points. Now, going from 10 to 25, that's 2.5 times. So the lie came in with this. Do you see what's happening? They're trying to raise your taxes by 2.5 times, which is not the case. Our entire property tax is not education. There's a city tax, there's a county tax, there's a utility tax, there's a school tax, and there are other pieces of that millage. I think we're up total like 37 millage points for our property taxes. Mm-hmm. So when you raise it 15 points for education, you're essentially increasing property taxes by 30%, not 2.5 times.
Right.
And you could not explain this to people that wanted to believe.
It was like, pulling teeth. I mean, they fully believed, okay, my property taxes is, say, $1,000. Oh, it's going to be $3,000.
They had been told by somebody that they completely trust, and put their voting faith in that it was going to go up 2.5 times, and that could not be changed from that. And they could not change their mind, even though it was a complete falsehood.
Living out in the county, when the proposed tax came up, I'll use myself as an example. I'm not scared to do it. Roughly $200,000 lot for a house and lot that I live on. Mm-hmm. Roughly about $200,000. It's probably about 175, 180, somewhere in that neighborhood. I pay $400 a year property tax. When I say that to my friends in Georgia, they laugh at me hysterically. Mm-hmm. That's what they pay a month.
Right.
I pay a little over $400 a year. It would have went up to $600.
Mm-hmm. And divide that over 12 months.
Yeah, less than $20 a month. And that's the concept you got to go. Okay, you go up to people. Oh, I don't want to raise my taxes, but are you willing to pay $17 a month to better your school system?
Yeah.
And you know better than anybody can.
And that's what it comes out to. But then, like you said, there was this faction that just had everybody totally convinced that their taxes were going to triple. Yes, that percentage point was going to triple, but that was all that was going to triple.
That's a minor percentage point of your taxes.
And to give people some perspective on this, we're talking going from 10 to 25 for the Prattville, within Prattville right now. Mm-hmm. Auburn City school system pays 55.
55 for
We're
education.
Not for education. 55 mills for education. Pike Road just went up to what, 40?
49, I believe.
Yeah.
Or was it 56? Something like that.
Yeah.
They went up like 26 points.
Yeah, they went up. Yeah, I mean, they increased it, and then a year later did it more. I mean, they knew what they had to do to invest in their system. Then you got the Alabasters of the world with the Thompson school system.
And what is the results of that fruit? The results of that labor is massive fruit. You have sparkling palatial school systems that are more than adequate, that are safe, that provide opportunities that these kids wouldn't have otherwise, that get them on a higher plane to the next level. If that's trade, if that's college, if that's whatever, the school system can get them there. Yeah. We don't have that.
And don't come at me with this, oh, you're just doing that because you want to compete in football.
No.
This is way more than that, folks. And anybody that knows me knows it's way more than that.
Yeah.
And
I pay more than $20 a month during school for my kids' teachers to have snacks, to have crayons, to have the basic necessities for those kids because I can.
Exactly.
And so, raising the property tax for me is not a big deal. And I understand that there are people out there who are like, do not like tax. Nobody likes new taxes.
Nobody likes tax.
Nobody likes taxes.
But you got to pay something if you're going to have a public school system.
Right. I mean, these are our children. These are the future of Prattville, Watauga County, Alabama. We have to invest in them if we want them to invest in us later. They're not going to want to stay around here if our schools are failing. People aren't going to want to come here anymore if our schools are failing. We pride ourselves on being the preferred community, and people aren't preferring us anymore. They're preferring to go elsewhere for school. And we really have to look at ourselves internally and say, what are we doing wrong? We're not pumping everything we got into our schools, and we should be.
That's absolutely correct.
Maxwell Air Force Base.
Oh,
for years, Prattville was where everybody went from Maxwell.
Yeah.
Anybody that moved in from Maxwell went to Prattville. Folks, we're not even in the top 10 on their recommendation list anymore.
No, not anymore.
These people moving in from Maxwell for 1 year at War College or 3 year assignments, they'd rather live in Auburn
and commute
so their kids can go to that school system than come here. And here's the other thing that is scary to think about, that a lot of this rests on the Watauga County Board of Education's shoulders, is that there's a listing that comes out on quality of life for Air Force bases every year. I think there's 57 in that list. Maxwell is at the bottom of that list. And when they cut bases, the War College can exist anywhere anywhere.
They could literally take that War College, take about 10 C-130s, load it up, and move it to Arkansas in a weekend.
And if they did it, and if Maxwell shuttered, it's about a $1 billion annual loss to the river region. There's way more at stake than just my kid in the school system. Even if you don't have a kid in the school system, which a lot of these people that would vote on this tax, they don't.
Right.
It means more to them. It means just as much to them it should mean as it would mean to somebody with a kid in the school system, because you're talking about economic development, commercial development, white collar jobs, blue collar jobs. These people that want to bring industry like James Hardy to Prattville. Thank God James Hardy decided that they were going to come here, because they didn't have to. That was a massive job by our city to get James Hardy here, because what these CEOs and these business developers come and do, first thing they look at is a school system. I've got kids. Where they're going to go to school? Here? No thanks.
Right.
They just look at the buildings and go, this hadn't been upgraded since 1965.
Right. So throughout this whole campaign, I've knocked on a lot of doors. And I knocked on the door of an older gentleman, and he said, "How do you feel about the tax?" And I said, "Well, I'm glad we're going to get to vote on it, right? I'm going to vote yes for the tax. You vote however you want. But can I tell you why I'm going to vote yes?" And I explained it to him. And I mean, he doesn't have kids in the system. He's far removed from all of that. And, throughout my explanation, he said, "I didn't know that." He said, "So I'll vote yes."
It's amazing when you break it down to people,
Yes.
how often you hear that phrase.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh,
Right.
really?
Oh, really?
I thought it was a city school system.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you break it down to small things like teachers buying snacks for their kids, or, now look, the Taga County Board of Education did vote to buy school supplies for the school, for the kids, which I think is huge.
With COVID money.
Yes. So I feel like
that's not a sustainable thing.
It's not.
It's
No,
just-
it's not. They are bringing back paid lunches this year, free breakfast, but paid lunch, because of the Title I funding that
Right.
they need.
They do.
They need that, and that's kind of sad that they need that money to survive. They have to do those things. But here nor there. But I just think that if people really understood, we bus people around all these schools and let them walk through, I think they would understand that our kids deserve so much better.
They do.
They do. And look, my kids are getting a great education, okay? I have the ability and the financial means to send my kids to private school. Mm-hmm. But we have chosen to not do that because I feel like my kids are getting a great education. Could it be better? Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's something we really need to emphasize. This is not an indictment of the people,
No.
of the board members,
No.
or the superintendent, or the teachers, or the principals. This is not an indictment on them.
No.
They are doing the absolute. I mean, the job they do with what they have is amazing.
They're
Amazing.
squeezing blood from a turnip.
Yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
Yes.
But for so long, this system's
We've been trucking along and we've been
cre-
making do.
Yeah,
And-
badge of honor was we do more with less.
Yes.
That's not a badge of honor. That's a crutch.
Yes.
It's a crutch.
It's a crutch that has to go.
It
Yes.
has to go, and when it goes, if the people that make up this school system, the teachers and administrators, if they could at least get near a level playing field with competing school systems, this school system would soar.
Absolutely.
It would be on fire.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't be able to stop
Because
it.
the stuff that is accomplished now, behind the eight ball like we are, is phenomenal. I mean, we're still on equal to a lot of schools in this state as far as performance, but what you have to do to get that performance is, let's just say, it's ridiculous. That the hoops and the amount of effort you have to do to just be on par with everybody else.
Yeah. Take two instances I can think of, academic and athletic, come to mind, how we maintain a competitive balance with some of these schools that are funded at 10 times what we're funded at. Our debate team, high school debate team, is one of the best in the state. Year in, year out. They don't have the tools or the resources or the funding that it takes to compete at that level, but somehow they do. And then you look at the girls' track and field program. We don't have a competitive track in this whole county. Yep. Not a single competitive track, not a single even complete track.
To give the example, the Prattville High School track there is now is the exact same surface. It hadn't even been resurfaced that I ran on, that I blazed a 6/140 on.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that for a second. It's 9/140 and you know it.
Over 30 years ago. It's the same track.
And Coach Dubois and that track and field team compete at the state level, at the highest level, make it all the way to the state competition and do well. Finish in the top 5, top 10 in many events, and they don't have the basic resources that you would need to even practice.
Yeah. And like you said, it's for the entire county. The entire county's in the same situation. Every school in it. It's just not a Prattville thing.
Right.
And that's another thing we need to emphasize. It's not just a Prattville thing, folks.
No, Marbury needs a middle school.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be able to they're not going to get to be included in this tax vote, and that's a shame. And it's nobody's fault except the representatives that lied to them. And I say that I don't like saying that, but that's the truth.
Yeah, it is true. It is. It's very much true. 2 people held this whole thing up, and they did not want to allow the people of Watauga County to have the opportunity to vote on their own, whether they wanted it or not.
And they know who they are.
But
anyway, digress. Maybe not digressing. Maybe we just need to jump on something else.
Well,
we'll just say 1 down, 1 to go.
Yeah. Well, everybody that knows me knows I will die on the sword for our public school system.
Absolutely.
I adore them. Every one of them, all the teachers, the administrators, central office, everybody. I think I've always said, we do great with what we have, but we shouldn't have to. We shouldn't have to. We should be rewarding our teachers with more money. We should be supplying them with the things that they need, their basic needs. They need desks. They need textbooks. They need new floors.
New floors.
New windows. Yeah. New blinds.
Let me bring this up real quick.
Basic necessities.
Necessities.
I want to bring this up real quick. We all love the Prattville Primary School. It's historic. It's everything that's about Prattville.
Yes.
Yeah. I went. My son John Carter will be starting 1st grade there this year. I went in to drop off his registration papers the other day, and it was the first time I'd set foot in Prattville Primary School in 40 years when I was in Prattville Primary School. And, I stepped in there, the floor creaked. I'm like, it was almost like you went back in a time portal.
Right.
And then I'm sitting there going, wow, this is amazing. I haven't been in this building for 40 years. And it was around 50 years when I stepped in it.
Yeah, it was old then.
And it still smelled the same, didn't it?
Yeah, when you're in there.
Yeah,
even with your eyes closed.
You do.
And think about that. For almost a century, that building has been housing the 1st and 2nd grade in Prattville.
I would say it's done its job.
It's time to just say thank you for your service. We how much longer can you keep this building in the conditions where it's safe and effective for 1st and 2nd graders?
Right.
I know there's future. I've seen future plans and everything. It would be a great administration building.
Yeah.
For the Board of Education, but the kids need better.
And that brings up another topic: the kids, the safety of these schools.
Yes.
We do everything we can to make our schools as safe as possible, but these old buildings do not allow for the newest measures of safety that can be had for these schools. And Uvalde, Texas is a perfect example of what an old school offers. That was an old school. Rob Ross Elementary. Was it Rob Ross or Rob Elementary? Rob Elementary.
Yeah.
Rob Elementary was a very old school. And there was an easy in.
Yes. Yeah.
Doors get propped open, easy in, easy out. And tragic what happened there.
Yes.
That could happen here.
It could.
We think we're immune to it, but we're not. We just had a shooting in Vestavia last week. Somebody came and shot up a boomer potluck at a Catholic church. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. We act like we're immune to it, but we're not. And these old schools that our kids are in, they're secure. They're secure. They are. But we can do better.
We can. And, I've had several conversations with people since that, since the shooting happened, and it was horrible. And we all, it's on everybody's brain right now. But in a few months, it won't be. And people will forget. And, I personally feel like my kids are safe at school.
Yeah.
When they're inside the building. But they go outside for PE. They go outside on the bus loop for recess. There's car line, They go outside for car line. And you can't put kids in a bubble. We can't create an environment where we're going to 100% prevent this, but we can do better. But we don't have the money. we don't have the structures that can accommodate the things that we need.
And the ability to put more teaching units in there.
Yes. Should an SRO be at every school? Yes. Yes. Absolutely. But we don't have the money. We have to share. Mm-hmm. And they bounce between the schools, and they do a phenomenal job. We need somebody on site the whole time school's in session, as my opinion.
Every time, 30 minutes before and after that bell rings.
Yes.
Resource officer on site at every school.
Yes.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Do we need to dip into our community and say, hey, what can we do? Can somebody come and stand guard? There are several options that I think we just have to open ourselves up. And I think our doors have been closed for long enough that we need to let our community know that our schools are suffering. I think, nobody wants to air the dirty laundry. Nobody wants to show the bad stuff, but we're suffering and we need help. And we have to call on our community sometimes to do that.
And I think a lot of that is people feel like when you do that you're like I said earlier, you're trying to indict the administration and the teachers of this. But people have to understand it's not them.
No.
They do the greatest job they can do, all the way from superintendent down to janitor. Mm-hmm. Everybody's doing everything the maximum they can do.
Multiple hats.
But what could they do if they had more resources?
Right. We could take a weight off of the shoulders of some of their responsibilities.
What if you had resources for those for extra resource officers?
Yeah. They're just not more is not the word. Yeah. How about adequate?
Yeah, adequate. Okay,
right,
yeah, that's even better. That's even better.
Right.
Not more, adequate.
Right.
Put us on the just get us to an equal playing field with everybody else. And we're not talking just a few. We're not talking about the rich elite of the state. We're talking everybody, folks.
We're talking about being brought to average funding.
Folks, we are looking up at Montgomery's public school system right now.
From a funding perspective.
From a funding perspective, we're looking up at them.
And that's a hard pill to swallow.
It is.
It is.
But like you said, young blood, fresh faces is what's needed. And you're the start of that, Kim. So we're excited.
I hope so.
We're excited for you and excited for all the new people that to step into roles in the Board of Education. This is a big turning point.
It is. It is.
The first turn in the rudder was going away from elected superintendent and getting a appointed superintendent.
Right.
Have that. He doesn't need votes to make the hard choices. And now here comes a board turning over that has moms, educators, businessmen all together pulling the rope the same direction.
Right.
This is what we need. This is exciting.
Right. This is big. I don't think people really understand what's happening here. What the ACBOE employee is like the largest employer, and so to have a board who is now backing that and who is now listening and ready to stand up and change things, like this is huge for our county. We are blazing a new trail here. And what I've been telling everybody too is, look, we take office in January. Okay. We're not going to change things day one.
Right.
You probably won't even see anything 6 months in. It took us 15 years to get to where we are right now. Mm-hmm. It's going to take a minute to change things, but to know that we are actively working all the time. I mean, shoot, I'm already starting to say what needs to be done and what we need to change and what I think. I have no idea what it's going to be like to be on the board. I don't know what we're responsible for or what we can and cannot do, but I'm starting to dig into that, and I'm starting to, figure out what is going to be the first thing that we do.
But did you know what was going to be required of you when you stepped in as PTA president?
No.
And you learned that pretty quick.
I did.
So looking at past precedent, you're a quick study, and this is going to be a slam dunk for you.
Yes, and I have a slight advantage to where I am a stay-at-home mom. I have invested that into my kids since we moved here. I decided I did not want to work. I want to be at home with my kids.
Which is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. It is a lot of work, but they do go to school. And so I have an advantage of having those school hours to where I can have my feet in those schools. I can pop in, and I can have my eyes and ears and my hands and my feet on all of those schools and figure out what we're going to do and the best decisions that are made for them. And
you also have a degree in education.
I do. A
degree in education, know the schools inside and out, and you have time to put your finger on the pulse of all of it.
Absolutely. Those schools will know my face. They will know who their board members are. Mm-hmm. I won't walk through once a year. It'll probably be once a week. So those teachers will know that I'm invested in them and I'm invested in our schools. And I only want what is best. So all of my decisions will be for that. They will be because it's the right decision.
That gets me excited, Millzer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, what a breath of fresh air.
Yes.
And
thank you.
What we want to accomplish with this podcast is exactly what we did today. We want to get people the information that they need to know, and not the uneducated version of what people try to present as facts. Mm-hmm. That you just we want people to understand what's going on, how bad a situation we're in, and the hard choices and and everything that we're going to have to make to get out of it.
Right. That's right.
And we're relying on our community to step in and say, we support you.
Yeah, that's going to be the key. It's going to continue down this path until the community as a whole puts a foot down and says, okay, we've had enough. Mm-hmm. We've got to fix this.
Right.
And it's a small rudder on a big ship.
Yes.
It takes a while to turn it around, but you have to start turning the wheel at some point.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. And we're going to start sometime around September, October this year, I imagine, when that vote comes around for the tax.
Yes, we are.
So, well, Kim, we really appreciate you coming on today.
Sure.
Kim
Thank you
Crockett,
for having me.
You were nervous about coming on here, but you knocked it out of the park today.
Well, thank you.
I mean, such a great interview.
And another thing I want to bring up is this is not an isolated incident thing here. As this podcast goes, we want it to be a voice for our representatives.
Yes.
So we also have Tracy Stritchett will be coming on here in the next couple of weeks.
Dr. Stritchett?
Dr. Tracy Stritchett. I'm sorry I forgot that. Dr. Tracy Stritchett.
Put some respect on that name.
Yes. And we've had city councilmen here, and if you hear this and you're a public representative, or any office, contact us if you got something to say, or if you got a topic that you want to talk about, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, you know how to find us, and we're waiting.
Yes,
we want to hear from you. But I do want to. I think now's a good time to put a spotlight on the real need for education in this community, in this county. Some former Powell High School graduates are part of this program as well, and it's still a little section we call Poetic Justice. And Kim, you're going to see firsthand the need for better education in this county. And with Chip Powell's Poetic Justice moment. Now, I say that about him because he takes shots at me too. Okay, so this is me giving it back to Chip. He's not a very smart man. No, he is very smart man and a highly accomplished poet laureate.
And this week he introduces introduces his co-host now.
Yes.
Who is also a lover of poetry.
Yes. He. This is going to be an infamous duo.
Yeah. This duo will probably go down as one of the greatest literary duo minds in the history of Powell.
Like Abbott and Costello. So without further ado, Kim, I'm going to introduce this segment, Poetic Justice with Chip Powell and Lewis Mills.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of Poetic Justice with your host, Chip Powell. I'm Chip Powell. Got some exciting news today. Not any poetry about death or darkness. We're going to have, this is a totally positive show. I'm going to go ahead, we've been baiting you the last 2 episodes. I know people are waiting out there wondering who this co-anchor is going to be. And I'm going to talk a little bit about him first. And this episode may be a little long. We're not going to do but just one little poem that really is a favorite of mine. And I'm sure that our co-host here will probably know it right off the top of his head. But anyway, I'm going to introduce. I met this guy really years ago. We actually worked at the same employer, very great business here in town called Herod Chevron. I worked there after this fella had already started, but he showed me the ways of how you set a car on fire. I set a car on fire at Herod Chevron accidentally. This fellow actually ran a car, the owner's wife's car, into a Coke machine, and the Coke machine fell upon the car. And with that, I'm going to introduce him. And he's going to come on here in just a minute. But Lewis Mills of Larry Puckett Chevrolet, he's your service advisor, general manager. He really runs and owns it. The Larry Puckett's just got a name there. But it's really Lewis Mills. If you want to go get something done, you see Lewis Mills. But anyway, Lewis, it's good to have you here finally, man. I know you've been, on, I think last week you were at the Pensacola Poetic Festival. They have it down there every year, and I know you learned some things there, but good to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, listen, we're going to get straight into it, and we're going to let Lewis dive into some of this and just to show him the knowledge and love, or that he knows what because we've met several times down at Bridge Street, down in downtown Prattville. Early mornings for Poetry Club we have there on occasions, and next meeting we'll probably announce it and see how many people will show up. But it's at the crack of dawn, so a lot of people can't do that. Especially, you got to have a special love of poetry. But today's poem is going to be, like you said, short because we're really just kind of introducing Lewis to us. But I'm going to recite this poem and just see how good he is. If he can pick this out, because we're talking about poems from, I guess, as far as the 14th century I've been studying. And anyway, we'll see what he does. But very short, it says, "My life has been the poem I would have writ, but I could not both live and utter it." That's it, Lewis. I mean, just off the top of your head. I know it's short, but those 2 sentences, we're going to break them down. But any idea who that is?
Yeah, I believe memory sits right. It's a 19th century poet from Massachusetts, Henry David Thoreau.
Whoa! Now, you're talking about that right there shows you the love and knowledge that you have, Lewis. I mean, incredible. I mean, you probably started reading about Henry David Thoreau way before we worked at Herod Chevron. And if you can, just talk about a little bit how we met there and, and how you took me under your wing and showed me.
Well, I believe we were desperate for employees at the time. And Mr.
Yeah.
Herod put me up for a challenge. And, Horace Powell needed you to make some money on your own because you were costing the family a lot with all the groceries that you were eating at the time. You're trying to get pumped so you could go to college and play football. I remember all the raw eggs you used to eat with that ice cream.
Oh, yeah. And we actually grew those. We not grew the eggs, but we grew the chickens that had those eggs.
Right.
Anyway, let's break down this poem. I mean, you recognize how deep and meaningful this is. Only it's 2 lines, but basically what he's saying, he's declaring that he has the choice to tell the story of his life or actually live it. And yeah, you're right, Lewis. He chose to experience it rather than detail it. That's what your life is about. You, back then here at Chevron, you used to tell me what you would do, but you've lived it. And one of the most successful men here in Prattville. But Lewis, step in anytime. About your, I know there's some other ones. Robert Frost, you and I have discussed that here at Chevron, and Emily Dixon last week was our poem of the week. But I know that you've got the Lake Martin Poetry Festival coming up this fall. Talk little bit about possibly, what'll go on there in about September, I guess.
Yeah, just trying to get a few folks off the lake and try to recite a little poetry together, and just see if we can grow this thing. It might be statewide before it's all said and done.
Well, and listen, we've had several. You may have had the same English lit teacher I had in school, and you can tell we learned a lot. Developed our love for this poetry, but looking forward to that and more exciting episodes with it. But next week, I'm going to let you do the opposite. I'm going to let you pick out one of your favorite poets, and see if I can guess it. But it's a short episode today. Just want to introduce Lewis, and looking forward to that. And no more festivals between now and the Lake Martin Poetry Festival.
No, life's a little busy in the summertime, and car business is really busy right now, so don't really have a lot of time to stop for the poetry club right now, but we're going to get cranked back up.
All right. Hey, wow. Short poem, introduce the new co-anchor. Wait, next week we'll have an exciting poem from you. Another exhilarating episode from Poetic Justice. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
The 2-line poem turns into a 10-minute segment. Kim, this is why the school system needs tax dollars.
Yes.
Case in point, Chip Powell and Lewis Mills. But we love them. We love them. Poet laureates, and who knew it? They hide it so well.
They did.
Well, again, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming on the Preferred Experience podcast.
Absolutely.
I hope you had fun.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you.
It was fun for us, too, and very educational.
Yes.
Look forward to the things that are going to happen
Yes.
with the school board over the next 6 years.
Yes. Yes.
With you and the young blood and the fresh faces.
That's right. That's right. So you can have me back in about February.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
See how we're progressing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, we want to get you fired up as you head off into your role as the new Board of Education.
Oh, I'm fired up.
And I want to give I'll do a little intro for this one because
Okay.
I've got to paint the picture.
This is how we end the show every week.
Okay. All right. I'm ready.
As we do every week, we want to get off on a good foot and get everybody motivated and excited about the week. And we do this with a motivational quote from one coach, Donny Burnett. And we recorded this yesterday. And I just have to say, when he came in here, it was roughly 4 o'clock in the afternoon, totally disheveled.
A-team.
Shirt sweated through, dirt, grimy. I almost didn't let him into place. I mean, he was pretty rough. But he comes in here, and he's so dedicated to this community. He had been pressure washing for 10 hours in yesterday's heat.
That's the A-team right there.
That's the A-team. That's the team that goes around in the off season during the summer. A group of coaches and actually one of the coaches' sons is helping them this year. Jason Brown and Kevin Hall and Donny Burnett and Drew Brown is helping as well. They go around to all the work. They work for the Board of Education during the summer, going around pressure washing everything that needs pressure washing, the sidewalks at different schools, They were at the Board of Education. And, I saw them when I drove by the other day. They were out front there cleaning, pressure washing and cleaning.
Kim is well aware of this.
Yeah.
She knows.
Yes. I can pressure wash and stripe the parking lots and
All the
paint.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
But his dedication, is very motivating because after all this, he still came in and he made sure that he got his quote in this week, that he wanted to get everybody motivated and fired up.
And it's a great testament to a man who just turned 70.
Yeah, ish. Oh boy.
Well, let's go.
But anyway, here we go. We're gonna. This will be this week's motivational minute with Coach Donny Burnett.
This is Coach Donny Burnett, and here's today's motivational minute. Today we're going to talk about grit. No, not grits, Will Barrett. Grit. Grit is the mental toughness and passion that propels you towards achieving your vision for life. It's the key to remaining focused and motivated. Rather than courage or exceptional talent, grit is the tenacity, perseverance, resilience, and willingness to keep you going despite obstacles. It is quickly adapting to new circumstances and being committed to work hard for long periods, trusting that if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you'll light that sucker up yourself. This is Coach Donny Burnett, and that was today's motivational minute.
You can hear the grit in his voice after a hard day of pressure washing.
Yes.
And he's absolutely right.
It's hot out there, y'all.
Yes,
it's
it is hot. Stay hydrated, wear sunscreen. Don't pressure wash unless you have to. Okay? But yeah, he's right. If you can't see the light in the tunnel, light the sucker up yourself.
So you could hear in his voice
The grit.
the grit of of the day. I mean, imagine his voice was the way he looked.
You could feel him.
You could feel him.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Miss
You're
Kim
welcome.
Crockett, congratulations on
Thank you so much.
your recent campaign election victory and the runoff victory.
Yes.
You can relax for 2 weeks.
That's right. No, there's no rest for the weary. I'm gathering signs and, trying to clean up my mess around Prattville.
That's the hardest part after is picking up all the signs.
Oh, yes, it is. It is. Well, I don't say that wasn't the hardest part, but it's one of them. But I'm very excited. I'll be standing at the end of the tunnel with a flashlight, so I'm ready and willing to work, and I can't wait to be a part of something great.
Absolutely. Well, here we go, folks. Thanks for joining us on the Preferred Experience podcast. We'll see you next week for more. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, that's going to do it for this week. Man, Will, love you coming in, pinch hitting, and dude, you hit a grand slam tonight.
Well, expect nothing less from me, Daryl. I'm the best.